I might not seem like it sometimes, but I'm actually a massive cheapskate. Like, I spent almost all of my 20s as either a student or an intern or a broke journalist, and penny pinching is just in my DNA at this point. So like, look, I like wearing expensive boots, of course, I own plenty of them, but for a long time I was laboring under this delusion that you just can't get a good pair of boots for less than $300, right? That's why my early boots are all Red Wings. I just thought that's the minimum amount of price you have to pay for like a good pair of like Goodyear welted sturdy boots, but that's actually not the case. In my research and in my journey as a sort of internet boot guy, I've come across a lot of brands that actually offer really good quality shoes for less than 200 bucks. So today I'm gonna get into all those. We're gonna go through some Moktars, we're gonna go through some Chelseas, I'm gonna go through the best overall boot for under 200 bucks, and that is Thursday Boot Company makes insanely high quality shoes. And the most popular one is the Captain. This is my terracotta boot. It's very, very beat up because it's basically my go-to boot. I wear it all the time. And I've also got another one in brown Thursday Chrome. And Thursday boots, their shoes cost $199. It is ridiculous. They have some more expensive models like the Vanguard and a couple other ones, but they've got a whole ton of service boots like this. They've got the President, they've got a Chelsea, they've got a Moktar, and all of those boots, those standard boots people want, they're all $199 or sometimes even less than that. And the value is really ridiculous. I haven't actually made a video about this yet, but I basically have like a 5-point checklist that I go through to determine like if a boot is like really top-notch quality. Number one is a Goodyear welt. That is a way of attaching the upper to the sole so that the boot is able to be resoled and like last like a much longer time than it would have otherwise. And it also means the boot is very water resistant as well. Second thing I look for is full grain leather, not bonded leather, not genuine leather. Full grain leather is leather that's made from the outside of the animal's hide. It's the bit that like is faced to the elements when the animal is alive. And it's the bit that's going to age the best and look the best as the shoe ages. So it gets more beautiful as the shoe continues to age. And it can age for a long time because you can resole it because of the Goodyear welt. The third thing I look for is good grip, but with a low profile. So you can contrast that with something like a Commando sole, which offers great grip, but it's really, really chunky. What I like about Thursday is that one of these brands that have like a nice flat sole, and it's got a sort of recessed studded rubber sole. So the grip is great, but it's still nice and subtle and versatile when looked from the side. The fourth thing I look for is a shank. That is a hard piece of material, usually steel, that's inserted like in the layers of the sole to help give the shoe some stability, to help give it some arch support, and to help the shoe retain its shape as it's aging. So it helps the shoe to like improve its longevity in that regard. Plus helps you prevent against puncture wounds as well if you happen to step on a sword or something like that. That happens to me a lot. And number 5, free returns and exchanges. And Thursday ticks all of these boxes. Plus it's got this really interesting, innovative aesthetic to it. It's like a hybrid dress work boot aesthetic is what they kind of call it. So by that I mean, it's not like a really chunky, bulbous, outdoorsy sort of boot. It's like sort of more tapered at the toe, but it's not a really dainty, delicate dress boot either. It's a really nice compromise between the two. So you're gonna get the best of both worlds here. It is a good, tough boot, 360-degree Goodyear welt. You got your shank, you got everything else, but it's also leather lined. And again, this aesthetic, it really is versatile. It goes with just about any outfit you can come up with. So I really like them, and 199 bucks, the value is really just second to none. A little rounder in the toe, but still very versatile, the Beckett Simonon Dowler Cap-Toe boot is one of my favorites as well. Now, the downside with this brand is that it's a made-to-order brand, right? That's why it's so inexpensive. It helps them to like save on inventory, save on labor, all this other kind of stuff. But it does mean that when you make the order, you're gonna be waiting 2, maybe 3 months for the shoes to get there. If you're okay with that, it's a really, really, really solid brand. And also you can argue that it's more ethically made, that they are saving on inventory and doing made to order. That's like a kind of a strong component of their branding. Nonetheless, really good quality shoes that are worth the wait, and they've got a really wide variety of shoes as well. Like Thursday, you've got your Chelseas, you've got Jodhpur boots, a bunch of others. So if you want like a good Chelsea boot for under 200 bucks, a lot of people will tell you to go to like a Blundstone, which makes boots like that, but they have cemented soles, like they're not as easy to resole and so on. I would recommend, yeah, you go with someone like Thursday or Beckett Simonon. These boots, really terrific. The Dowler Cap-Toe boot in particular, this is maybe this really interesting and surprisingly hardy calfskin leather from Argentina. It's also got a sole that's all leather, leather outsole, leather midsole, leather insole, and it's leather lined as well. The leather outsole is kind of ugly, you know, but like it's still very comfortable. This is a really, really comfortable pair of shoes, helped by the fact that they have a steel shank. It's not a Goodyear welt, it is a Blake stitch. It's a resolable Blake stitch, they say, so you can get it resoled. It might be a bit hard to find a cobbler to do it. The main downside is it's not quite as water resistant as a Goodyear welt, but nonetheless, they are really hard wearing shoes. They're really good quality, they're really comfy, and there's free shipping and returns. Now, if you check out their website, you may actually see that these boots and the other ones I mentioned cost about $229, but if you use my discount code STRIDE, you get 20% off, and then it drops it down to like $183 or so. And that works on all of their boots as well, and their bags, and just anything else you want to get from the shop. So, very good discount code, and in general, even if you don't have the discount code, they're really good quality shoes. I like them a lot. Next, I want to talk about John Doe Boots. This is a Mexico-based company, and okay, the boots you're looking at now, they actually cost $210, but the majority of the boots on this site cost under $200, including this beauty, and these beauties, and these beauties as well. All under $200. This is also a made-to-order company, so you do have to wait a little bit for your shoes to come. But actually, John Doe Boots is really only like 3 to 4 weeks, so it's a pretty short wait time for made-to-order boots. And a really big upside is that the boots are really like totally customizable. Not only can you decide on what kind of sole you get, but you can also decide on what kind of leather you get, and you have access to a really wide variety of really high-quality leathers. A lot of them from Horween Leather Company in the US, which is broadly considered like the best leather tannery in the US, maybe the world. So you can get Chrome XL leather boots, which is like the most popular leather for boots, like full stop basically in the United States. You can also get Chrome Pack, you can get Rough Out from Horween, you can get French calf leather if you want. You can even get shark leather boots from John Doe Boots if you want. Those ones cost like $220 or $30, but that's still just ridiculous quality for shark leather boots if that's what you're in the market for. So an overall really good quality boots, leather line, you got your Goodyear welts, you got your shank in there, all the stuff that I really like in boots. The website is pretty hard to navigate, it's kind of annoying to get around, but if you're patient with them and you're patient enough to wait a few weeks to get them, good shoes. I like this company. So thus far, I've really just been talking about brands that have like really good boots for under $200. But let's talk about specifics. Let's talk about the Moktar. If you're in the market for a good Moktar boot, Thorogood's Moktar, the American Heritage 6-inch Moktar, I think is a real word for it. It's also like a very famous boot and it's really good quality as well. This is a boot, it's one of the few that you can actually use for work, like the sole is like resistant to electrical shock and it's got a bunch of other controls in there. And it's also a boot that is versatile enough that you can wear it with jeans, you can wear it with like a nice jacket around town as well. It meets those checklists that I mentioned earlier. It's got a Goodyear welt on there. It's got full grain leather. It's not the best leather in the entire world, but it gets the job done. It's got really good shock absorption, really good grip. It's got two things in the sole. There's got a pour-on midsole, and it's also got dual density inserts for extra shock absorption. So it really is very comfortable walking around in these shoes as well. It's lined with cotton, not leather like the last three companies, but you know, it's really lightweight, really soft inside. It's got a steel shank, and it's resolable as well with the Goodyear welt, and you can get it for $185. So it's pretty solid value. Another really good Moktar is the Bull Run from Donna. The vast majority of Donna's boots are over $300, but their famous Bull Run Moktar will run you about $190, and it's really good quality. It's not a Goodyear welt, to be fair. This one is stitched down in construction, which means it'll be a bit harder to resole. Donna can resole it for you, they say, but it'll cost you like $130. You might be able to find a couple who can do it anyway, but nonetheless, not as easy to resole as like a Goodyear welt. But nonetheless, that does mean they wind up being very lightweight boots, and they still have like a steel shank in there to help with like the stability, and they help it to retain its form as it ages as well. And it's got a lot in common with a Thorogood Moktar. Like the sole is really soft. It's also resistant to electrical shock to an extent anyway. It's also got a steel shank in there. I didn't put it very high on my list of the best boots for under $200 because it's not a Goodyear welt, it's not lined, it doesn't have much of a midsole to speak of, but that does mean that it is very lightweight. The sole's really nice and soft, the shock absorption is fantastic, and I might say that of all these boots, this is the closest feeling to a sneaker if that's a priority for you, and $190, very inexpensive. Something a little unusual for the next boot is the Apollo boot from YRX. There's no denying the fact that these look a lot like the very famous Jack boot from Taft, but the Jack boot cost over $200, and if you like the look but you want to save a bit of cash, these boots cost $199. And I think actually I might have a discount code with them as well. I'll put it on the screen and then you can get some extra money off as well. When you go on their website, it actually says $199 next to $250, which has been crossed out. I don't know if that's a gimmick or if eventually they're going to be $250, or if it's just always going to say that. But $199 is the going price anyway. It's what it's been for the last few months for the Apollo boots from YRX. And what's funny is that I own a lot of really expensive boots. I've got some $700 boots. but I've actually never gotten as many compliments as I have gotten on these Apollo boots from YRX, and they're under 200 bucks. It's ridiculous. A lot of interesting stuff going on with this shoe. The upper is mostly cashmere wool that comes from goats. Cashmere is more insulating, more temperature regulating than regular sheep's wool. You got some nice leather on the counter and the toe cap, as well as fully lined with calfskin leather. The sole is a nice mixture between rubber and leather, so you get like rubber on the forefoot and the heel. But the inside, the midfoot is leather, which means you get the grip of the rubber sole, but the flexibility of a leather sole. The boots also have a steel shank, and there's also a layer of EVA foam in there, which is like a material that's often used in athletic shoes, but some boot companies use it. Thursday also uses an EVA foam in there, and it means that you get like some extra shock absorption, and it's a bit softer to walk around in them as well. Now, they're not a Goodyear welt, they are Blake stitched, but an upside of when a shoe is Blake stitched instead of Goodyear welted is that it's more lightweight and tends to be a bit more flexible as well. So yeah, if you like the look of these shoes, under 200 bucks, it's a pretty tough price to beat. Finally, I've got a pretty broad category here. Indonesian boots. A lot of people don't know this, but some of the best quality shoes in the world are made in Indonesia. Indonesia was colonized by the Dutch for a while, and like the skill of like hand making boots is something they imported while they were exporting all their cash crops and stuff like that. But anyway, if you want really extremely well-made, really durable, really handmade boots, like a lot of them even hand stitch their Goodyear welts, which practically nobody does because it's so time intensive. You can get them for really cheap in Indonesia. Not always for under 200 bucks, but for instance, these Mile 85 boots I got from the company Santalum down there, depending on the exchange rate, it's like between $150 and $180 for a pair of these boots, and they're all handmade, and they've got a Norwegian welt as well, which is like a really, really old-fashioned way of making really water-resistant types of shoes. Like this is the sort of welting that people used to use when they were exploring around jungles in the 19th century. They would get boots with a Norwegian welt. So these shoes have a really interesting history attached to them, really impressive craftsmanship as well, and they cost well under $200. And they've got some plain toe boots as well, if you're not a fan of this Moktar, that cost like $140. Again, the exchange rate kind of depends, but yeah, pretty much always under 200 bucks. There are some other companies that have really good quality boots for under 200 bucks in Indonesia. Chevalier is one that I would encourage you to look out for, and there's also Sagara, there's also Textured, Junked. Those three companies I just mentioned, they're not normally under $200, but you're still gonna get like really high quality boots for under $300. That if they were made in Europe with the exact same sorts of materials and construction and quality, they would be like well over 500 bucks, 600 bucks, 700 bucks. So Indonesia is really like a treasure trove of people who want really high quality boots for less, and I couldn't recommend them enough. Potential downsides are that a lot of the time, not all the time, but a lot of the time these boots are made to order. And that's a big upside for some people. They like the idea of like you placing an order and then they go into the workshop and start making them for you. Nonetheless, that means you are probably gonna have to wait a couple months for your boots to get there, maybe even longer. And also with shipping, sometimes the cost winds up being like over 200 bucks. Like you'll pay like 50 bucks shipping sometimes. Now there are still some boots out there, like some of the plain toe boots from Santalum, that will still be under $200 even with all that put in there. But nonetheless, even if they're a bit over 200 bucks at the end of the day, I really wanted to put Indonesian companies, especially ones like Santalum and Chevalier, on your radar if you're looking for really good quality boots for under 200 bucks. All right, those are my absolute favorite boots for under $200. I'm talking about boots for guys who don't just want a shoe with like a bit of like rubber glued to some leather in the upper. I'm talking about good quality leather, good quality stitching, a shank, all these really good marks of a good quality shoe. I encourage you to check out the full written article in the description below. I've got a couple of runners up, including the Timberland waterproof boot. They're not as good quality as everything else on this list, but check out the article because my website is awesome. Make sure you subscribe as well, by the way, because I've got a whole lot more boot content and denim content and fashion content and all that kinds of stuff coming up.